Right, I'd like to call the Town of Essex Selectboard meeting to order for Monday, October 4th, 2021. First item on the agenda is additions or changes. Any changes from staff? Done from staff? No? Any changes from the board?
Just a quick clarification. Can I pull the minutes from September 22nd?
Yep, we can do that. All right, so we'll pull those out and do those, I guess, at the end. All right, have a motion to amend the agenda.
I make, I'm sorry, I make the motion, we approve the agenda as
Amended.
amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-0. We will do the review the minutes at the end of the business items. I think it's 5J. Okay, next thing on the agenda is the public to be heard. This is a time for the public to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. If you'd like to address the board, either raise your hand in the Teams application or post a comment in the chat that you'd like to speak. If you're online or if you're in the room, you can raise your hand. Please be brief. I ask that you be civil and refrain from using inappropriate language. If you have remarks, please address your remarks to me as the select board chair. Please do not attack other members of the public or town staff. Please do not interrupt others when they have the floor. If you are online, please keep yourself muted until you are acknowledged and given the floor. Also, it's helpful if you're online to keep your camera off unless you're speaking to avoid distraction for others. Did I miss anything? Sounds good. Okay, I think we got it all. I made notes, so I try to say everything the same every time. Okay, so the only hand I see online is Mary Post. Go ahead, Mary.
Hi, Andy. This is a little strange. I'm contacting you because my neighbor, Betsy Dunn, is waiting to speak and no one's let her in yet. And I said that I would let you know that.
I don't see anybody waiting.
We don't see her waiting in the lobby. Did she join? Wondering if she joined tomorrow's meeting?
No, she's trying to join right now. But you know what I'll do is I'll call her back and tell her that she should try to get in, that maybe something's wrong.
Yeah, we don't see her even attempting to join.
Okay, I will let her know that. Thank you.
Have her
Yeah,
check the date.
Thank you, Mary.
Uh-huh.
Next, we have a meeting tomorrow also. There may be some confusion.
Or she can try to call in as well, or if she wants to email me her phone number, I can try to call her if she hasn't had any success when we get to that point of the agenda.
Okay, thank you. I think she's listening, but I'll let her know anyway. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mary. I see Margaret Smith. Go ahead, Margaret.
Hi, I'm looking for the agenda. I pulled up the top agenda on a list which said Monday, October 5th. And so I was looking at that agenda for several minutes before it occurred to me that there's actually an error on the website. So it might be that she's trying to log into Tuesday meeting where it actually says that it's Monday's meeting on the website. Just a thought that might be possible. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Margaret. Yeah, we were noticing. I don't remember. Yeah, go ahead.
If you're on the agenda center on the town website under select board, the top one is October 5th, which is tomorrow's meeting. We're on October 4th, the second listing down. That will give you the right agenda and the right call-in information.
And I apologize for the confusion. We'll have the correct agendas up tomorrow.
Okay, so you're saying they're in the wrong sequence on the agenda
No,
center,
it's
or
just
is it-
chronological, so the
Chronological.
earliest is at the top. So it's, the top one is tomorrow's because it had to be warned before now. The second one down is October 4th, which is tonight's correct agenda. It does say Monday, October 4th on the agenda.
Okay, okay. All right, so hopefully Betsy can hear us, and hopefully she can join. All right, I don't see any other hands up online. That seems to be empty. Any public comment from the room? Okay, I don't see any. So let's move on to business item 5A, which is interview and potential appointment for Lauren Cohen for the Conservation Trails Committee. Lauren, are you online?
I am on the phone.
You're on the phone. Okay, so you're the phone. All right. You're the first of several this evening for this committee. We have 4 open seats, I believe, at this point. So what we'll do, and I'll explain the process here so everyone can hear it up front, is that we'll ask you to introduce yourself, explain, give us some information about your background, explain why you'd like to be a member of the committee. Then the board will have the opportunity to ask questions, and then given that we have 6 candidates for 4 seats, we will go into executive session at the end of the meeting, and then at the end of the night, we will come out of executive session and, well, potentially, if we come to an agreement, we will appoint members to the committee, and then town staff will notify those that, or actually will notify everyone tomorrow, assuming we come to a consensus tonight. Did I miss anything, did I? Nope. Okay. All right. So, Lauren, go ahead. Tell us about yourself. Tell us why you would like to be a member of the committee, and you'll have a few minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. And I apologize. The timing of this, I'm driving. Well, I'm not driving, but I'm in the car driving in the rain. So if I can't hear me, let me know. As you stated, my name is Lauren Gaffney Cohen. I have spent most of my life in Vermont. I grew up in Essex, and I have a history of when I moved back to Vermont to have a family. I first started working with the recreation department in Essex before moving on to a career in real estate. So I have that background in seeing the town end of working on the rec department, and then also seeing on the real estate side of the value that folks find when they're looking for not just a house but a place to live. So I certainly have that interest as far as the trails and the recreation, and my family does a lot of hiking and biking, and I really see the importance, especially now with everyone moving in the direction to reduce energy use and to go green and to find alternative ways of transportation. And I see a lot of commuters biking longer into the season or starting earlier now with some e-bikes, and needing to have that connectivity within our own community, and would love to see Essex be a leader in that promotion for both commuters and for kids getting to and from activities on bike or on foot, as well as using them for recreation. I had interest in joining the committee. I think it was back in the spring that I had applied, and but I had a conversation with a woman at my child's school, drove to pick up my kids, and she is less than 3/4 of a mile from school, and walks with her stroller to pick up her son, and there's no sidewalk from her house or crosswalk for half that path. And it just felt like such a short way to walk and have to walk on such a busy Route 15. But I also see the preservation side of it too. I have a background in history. I was a history major. I also worked with at the Springfield Armory in Massachusetts before moving back to Vermont. So I certainly see the need to preserve history as well as maybe I'm going too long, recreational areas in our town for the future.
All right, great. Thank you, Lauren. Any questions from the board? Pat, go ahead.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Hi, you're welcome.
Can you talk a little bit about your time with Essex Parks and Rec? I see that you were an
Sure.
assistant program coordinator.
Yes,
Yeah, I wanted to make sure I got
correct.
the title right. But
Yeah.
given that connection to Essex and the municipality already, you could just explain maybe a little bit of what you did there, how you found the experience, that sort of thing.
Sure. So I even go back to Director Pete when I was in high school working with the Junction and the town after school programs. And then, but my most recent position there was working under Allie Vile as assistant program coordinator. And I coordinated the fall soccer program, the summer camps, the explorers, the after school programs. I don't know who just mentioned that. And my experience with that was I really loved getting people involved as much as possible, especially, I mean, I can't imagine being in that position now with the distance, but having people come in person and encouraging them to go to more community events, and my family certainly attends. We'll be going to the trick or treat trail and go to as many of those community events, because I think that's really important to bring everyone together, and I feel like we could use even more help at the rec department so we can accomplish more as a community.
All right, great. Thank you.
Any other
You're welcome.
questions? Board members? All right, so Lauren, my favorite question to ask is whether you feel you have anything unique that you bring to the table that others on the committee might not have.
Sure. I don't know what others have. I'm sure there are a lot of great candidates out there. I think the perspective that I bring to it has a little bit to do with my work on the job side. I see people not just looking at a house as a house now when they're buying a home, but looking at, I've had people discount a property because there's no trail, or there's no way for my kid to walk or bike to school. I can't commute, or I want to live here so I can commute to school, or I could walk to the hospital from here. And I'm seeing a greater importance of that and the value in that, as well as, the committee is not just about trails, but the historic background. I worked with giving tours at the Armory and highlighting the importance of understanding our history and why it's so important for our present and future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No other board questions? All right, thank you, Lauren. As I said earlier, we'll go into executive session late
Sure.
this evening, hopefully not too late, and someone will be in contact with you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Goodbye.
All right, so let's move on to Shannon Jackson. Come on up to the microphone and introduce yourself and let us know what your interest is, and welcome.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you having this meeting tonight and welcoming me as an interviewee. I also grew up in Essex. I'm a proud graduate of the high school, and I feel very fortunate to have boomeranged back here, much like Laura just mentioned. My wife and I closed on a house on Monday, a week ago, so we are in the process of unpacking everything, and I could not be more excited and more thrilled to be, immersing myself back in the community I grew up in. During my time away, went to school down in DC, and then I hit the campaign trail and worked for Senator Sanders for over a decade. And I've always, whether it was growing up, having a want to be involved in the community and serve both on the student council as well as on CHIPS and the variety of organizations in town, I've always wanted to have that part of my life balanced where I am servicing and, giving my time and volunteering. And I'm very active. My father and I hiked the Long Trail last summer. We did a through hike, had a wonderful time together. And on that, we really made a promise to each other that we wanted to really embrace the beauty of Vermont and the natural beauty. And when the Front Porch Forum post came up about this, I thought that, a lot of perfect scenarios were colliding. I would love to embrace my want to be involved in my community even more. I would love to give back and help organize people similar to what I did on the Bernie campaign, in which we brought together people from all walks of life to be involved in a mission that they believed in. And while this is not healthcare for all or something of that magnitude, I think it's something that really will resonate with people even more. Talking about being invested in your backyard and improving and continuing to maintain the incredible resources we have already here. Having grown up in Indian Brook and Saxon Hill and the many the tree farm, all the trail networks and the beauty that our great town has, I'm really excited to be part of it again. I'm excited to bring my skills to the table and do what I can to make it even stronger than it is already.
Okay, great. Thanks, Shannon. Any questions? Board?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pat.
You mentioned Essex Chips, so I'm assuming when you were a teen or growing up here in Essex, or have you been involved with them?
So I
Since
was,
coming back.
sorry, Pat, I don't
Oh
want
yeah,
to
yeah. No, I was gonna. I mean, I'll let you sort of explain the connection, but I wanted to hear if you've maybe given any thoughts to how a committee like Conservation and Trails might work with a group like Essex Chips, where it seems like introducing our youth to the trail systems in Essex, just off the top of my head seemed like a powerful or great idea. So I don't know if you have any other organizations that you maybe kind of linked to, but if you could talk a little bit about maybe what you might want to do on the CTC with and we link that to other groups that you've been involved with.
Absolutely. No, you right there with me. I'm on the same wavelength. When I grew up in Essex, I not only enjoyed the teen center, but I also had the privilege of serving on their board as one of the student members. It was under when Brad Luck was involved, and then Ray Coffey. So I was there for 2 years, and I loved being a leader in the community, even at a young age. But really, I think that's a great resource, and I think they have a lot of great programs there already. I'm sure they're already involved to some degree. I know that last weekend, maybe 2 weekends ago, you had the Indian Brook cleanup, and then sitting in on that committee, which I thank them for that opportunity as well. I know that they had talked about how they're getting the schools involved, how they're getting, posting it in coffee shops and things like that, putting it on the website. And I think there are a lot of ways to tap into these already existing networks and, established coalitions to get them to even more so take part in, Green Up Day and, other things we do to already rehabilitate and, care for the trails and the resources we have here established. And I'm also very excited about the possibilities of what we can do even further. I know, just off the cuff that at that meeting there was kind of thrown around how we could expand the network or make it safer or look for other ways to strengthen our community, whether it was through the preservation and conservation side or it was safe streets. I know that, I'm sure all 6 of these candidates, myself included, are going to make it a tough decision tonight. But I, just sitting here listening to what the previous candidate spoke about her perspective as a real estate agent, and that people are viewing this holistic view of a community, not just my neighborhood, my plot of land. I think there's going to be a lot of potential and excitement to work with.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Tracy or Don? Okay, I'll ask my favorite question again. You may have already answered it, but if there's any more to add, what do you think you have that unique that you bring to the table for the committee?
Well, I think everyone brings some special sauce to the equation here. I think that I bring a youth perspective, or a younger perspective. I don't know if I can say youth anymore, but I think it's important to get fresh blood involved. And while I am returning blood, I do feel that, I want people my generation and younger and older and everyone to be involved. But I think that during the COVID pandemic, I was living in Burlington for the past 3 years, and I got together with some of the city councilors, and we put together every month we had a food drive, which we went around to all the large, the Great Harvests and the Cheese Traders and Shaw's and Price Chopper and everything else, and made it so that we had a community-held food drive, and we had hundreds of families coming every time to get these, pretty decent bags that would feed them for a week. And I loved tapping into the skills I had developed as a campaigner. I loved using my, extroverted sense of personality to connect with anybody and everybody to get them involved, whether it was asking them to do their part as a business in the community, asking them to help pick up groceries and drive them to the site, help them bag, help them pass out, help them monitor traffic. I feel that I have a good sense of how to organize and delegate, which is not always a skill that is easily done. And I would love to take my talents and bring them to this committee.
Right, great, thank you. And welcome back to Essex.
Couldn't be happier.
So you grew up in Pinewood?
I did.
Yeah, okay. My wife is Janet Carlson.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So, your neighbor. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, my folks are still on Rustic. So.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
All right, next candidate, Rusty Brink. Come on up to the microphone. Same deal.
Whoops.
Give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. Tell us why you'd like to be on the committee. And,
Right.
We'll ask questions.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for including me, and to Linda for coordinating my integration into the system. I was influenced by really what Shannon said. The Front Porch Forum had a vacancy for the Conservation and Trails Committee, and I thought, geez, that would be something that I've focused on a good part of my life, and so I ought to apply. And I quickly found out that there were 5 other people who were interested in doing that. I just thought, gee, you really needed somebody to do that, and I thought that was a good idea. Quickly, I'm born in Madison, Wisconsin, grew up in Eastern Massachusetts, came here on a football scholarship in 1962 to attend the University of Vermont. And basically, I've been connected here with the exception of 20 years where I took a job in Charlotte, North Carolina, and another job in Florida. As I mentioned earlier, Andy, when we came in, my wife and I sort of had a contest about coming back to Vermont. We have 11 grandchildren, 8 of them are in Vermont. Mm-hmm. And so it was a hands down vote, come back to the grandkids. And that is what we did, and we've been thrilled. We built up in Stonebrook Circle. Professionally, I was a fundraiser for 50 years. And that may be, to answer your question, Andy, the unique experience that I bring to the table, because I work with individuals in helping to identify issues for them in sharing their estate with others, particularly with respect to land. Although I didn't do an awful lot of it, it did happen, and it was an important discussion to have. As Shannon said and Lauren said before him, community is important, and I applaud you folks for what you do for the community. I thought in some small way perhaps I could contribute on the Trails and Conservation Committee. I've hiked all over the state, Killington, Pico, Mount Mansfield, both sides, Jeffersonville, and the White Mountains, the Presidential Range at Mount Washington a number of times. Not that that makes me competitive for a position like this. It's only an indication of where my interests lie. And I'm active with Lake Champlain now, as well as the Green Mountain Club. I have to admit, though, in the last 2.5 years, and Patrick may know a little bit about this, in the last 2.5 years, some of my conservation focus has shifted because of the importance to Kathy and me of work with devastation, at least in our hemisphere, with hurricanes, fires, et cetera, and food insecurity. I'm active with the Rotary Club here and serve with Patrick, and we try to do an awful lot with our community in terms of reaching in and engaging in activities that will benefit the community and people that are that are more disadvantaged. So without going too far, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but that's basically a 50-year professional career in philanthropy, and still do a little bit on the side now. If you're going to work with the Rotary Club, Patrick makes me go out and raise money when I have to ring the bell for the Salvation Army. But it is important. I've worked in nonprofits my whole career. That was all I ever did. And if I can be of help to this committee and to our community, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, thanks, Rusty. Any questions? Go
Yeah.
ahead, Pat.
Well, I was going to mention it, but Rusty brought it up already that we do know each other from Rotary. Just wanted to make sure that that connection was public. Rusty, could you talk a little bit about your community service specifically here in Essex? I know that through the Rotary, there's different things that we do, but I think, having that, or at least knowing, I know it, but, knowing some of your history of, what you've done here in the community, I think would be great. And then I kind of have a follow-up question as well. It might be quicker to answer. The philanthropic activities that you did any of that also involve writing or consider going after like grants? Something that I think we might expect or want conservation.
I mean, it did to a certain degree, but I wouldn't want to peg my competitiveness in this position for my ability to write grants. Certainly, we had to do that an awful lot. The big story in fundraising is when they asked Willie Sutton why he robbed banks, he said that's because where the money is. And today, when I started, 20% of the individuals who contributed 80% of the dollars. Now it's closer to 95%. And so in successful philanthropy, I mean, we all try to get people involved to develop pride and engagement. But you really need to be talking with people about how their investments in their community or healthcare and education were my two things. So you needed to convince people about what their gift was going to impact. And I'm sure for Shannon, when he went out to talk to donors for Senator Sanders, they did the same thing, talking about what a difference Sanders was going to make in the life of their community and state and nation.
Great, thank you.
Don, go ahead.
You talked about hiking Mansfield, Bolton, and Camel Sump and Killington, but what is your experience here with the local trails and local slopes?
Very modest. Obviously, I would say probably most people do Indian Brook. We live in Stonebrook, which is above Pinewood, and there are many trails going through Pinewood, and so those are activities that I've done. At this stage of my life, my hiking ability is much less limited than what it was when I was much younger man. So I'm more thoughtful about where I go. But Indian Brook is good. That's a great, it's a great resource.
Thank you.
But I don't want to paint that too broadly. I've been there probably 4 or 5 times.
That's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions? Resta, you already answered mine, so I won't make you repeat it.
Great.
All right,
Thank you, folks. Thank you for
Appreciate
your
it.
work.
Thank you
Thank you.
Thanks.
for coming forward. We'll let you know tomorrow, hopefully. All right, and I did see that Betsy Dunn was able to join online. Betsy, feel free to turn your camera back on. And,
Got it on.
Right.
Can you hear me?
yes, I can. So go ahead, Betsy. Let us introduce yourself and let us know why you'd like to be on the committee.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Betsy, well, it's actually Elizabeth Dunn. I go by Betsy, and I have lived in Essex for 36 years. And during that 36 years, I was a full-time nurse at Fletcher Allen, was MCHB before that, and then something else, and then UVMMC. And but I've served my community that way, and then I served my community when I retired from that position as a full-time person working down in our legislature. And then I did that for only one biennium. My older sister developed Alzheimer's and stage 4 lung cancer, and I felt the most important thing I could do was to be with her for the last year and a half of her life. And since that has happened and she has died, I have been spending my time during COVID hiking. And I hike a lot of the town trails, and I've also hiked trails within the northern part of the state. And I found some similarities between how the trails are treated and cleaned and taken care of. And I have a passion about making it more accessible and easier for people to figure out where the trails are. Because a lot of people don't know where the access routes are to get into the trails. They know they're somewhere around there, but where do we go? So signage is a little bit of a problem there. I believe that during COVID, we saw in our neighborhood of Tanglewood, the Birchwood area, that has got direct access from all the streets into the Matthew Forest, an increase of people hiking and walking the trails. Since COVID has kind of slowed down in the sense that we were able to get out, there are less people hiking again. I'd like to be able to rejuvenate that and keep people out for not only just being outside, but for their health and well-being being outside. I think I have a background. I was a biology teacher for a little bit before I was a nurse. And I think it's great that we have as many people wanting to be on the Trails Commission, the Trails and Conservation Committee, because there's a lot of work to be done with conservation and with, as I said, the maintenance of the trails. Maybe all of us should be put on to the Trails and Conservation Committee so that if there are people who have better instincts around the conservation, they can work on that while other people are doing the work on the trails. That's just a thought. For me, it's that we have 2 predators in our woods. We have the emerald ash borer and we have this gypsy moth. And I think we need to do a study of how many trees are being affected by these things and how many trees that we have that we could clean up ourselves and what else can we do for them. I think that having on some of the trails that I've been on during this last year and a half, or almost 2 years now, some of the trails had markers underneath of the trees saying this is what this tree is and identifying it. And maybe we don't put them if we find that it's hard to make those little signs. Maybe for the kids who are coming and for the parents, you have signage and saying, these are the trees that are in our forest and these are how they look. And can you find them? How many can you find as you're walking the trails? I think there's a lot of little things that we can do. And I would be happy and I would enjoy being part of that. I don't have any raising money background. I didn't raise money when I ran for office. That was a successful thing for me. But I'm happy to help out in any way. What do I bring to the committee? I bring to this committee energy, focus, and I'm a problem solver. Any questions?
Thank you, Betsy. Any,
You're welcome.
questions? You've always let us off. You look like
I know Betsy. We've had lots of interactions over the last, 2 years. So, yeah, I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay.
yeah, okay. All right, and you already anticipated my question and addressed it in your remarks. That's I guess I didn't say earlier that we're doing this previously before we had hybrid meetings where some people were in person, some people were online. We would ask folks to leave the room so you didn't hear the questions and the answers for the other candidates. But with the mixed situation here of some people on the online and some people in the room, it's much logistically harder to do. So you got the benefit of hearing the questions ahead of time. Yeah. Oh, Don, I guess Don has a question.
Okay. Betsy, you mentioned that the trails needed markings so that people could figure out where they went, where they started, and where they ended. What else do you see as a major problem with our trail system or the way we're conserving our resources?
Well, some of the trails, I mean, I am very fortunate to have my father-in-law living with me. He's 95-year-old World War II vet, and he goes out there and hikes. But his stamina is less. And I think that all of our trails are wonderful and people want to finish them, but sometimes they just run out of steam, but they build it back up. And I think that we could have, we have a lot of fallen logs and logs that have been cut by our maintenance team that come out and cut them off of the trail when they fall. We could take some of those and make them little stumps for people to sit on or have benches on so that people could sit, wait, or even people who just want to sit and observe the Alderbrook, the stream, and watch the animals who come to it to feed and get water. I think there's a lot of things you can do to make it easier. When I looked at the Essex Park and Rec folder that I got in the mail, they said these are the Essex Parks, trails, and open spaces. They certainly didn't include them all. But the Woodside property isn't there. And there's a wonderful trail system there behind Woodside. And now that St. Mike's has given us the trails that are across the road from them, and they segue right into the Woodside trails, they should be incorporated into our trails. And I think that on our website for the Trails and Conservation Commission, I'd like to see a PDF of each of the trails there so that people could download those and take them with them when they're going on the trail to be able to make sure they're finding the parts that they want to do. I think that would really be very helpful. I'd also be interested in the conservation in the sense of getting out. We have a lot of people who like to do birding. How many birds are using our lakes and our streams that we have? I think that would be an interesting thing to get a handle on. As well as I said, the emerald ash borer and the gypsy moth, those are a huge problem that we have to really be aggressive, I think, in looking at. And the fowl, and I had something else on my mind, but is that good? Does that answer your question, Dawn?
It does. Thank you.
Okay. Uh-huh.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Betsy. Again, we'll have an executive session discussion later, and you'll hopefully hear tomorrow.
Could I ask one thing? I was really serious because these two parts to this committee used to be two committees, or one commission and one committee. You have people who want to help. It would be interesting if we could have them all, so that we could have a little bit more focus on working on the conservation, because there we might need someone who's helping us with, grant writing, like Rusty, who is just speaking, that it would be a way of maybe getting some money to us that we don't have to take from the town, that we could see that's necessary. I think that is a really good idea. I think that there's a lot of work to be done. Thank you. That's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Betsy. I think the history here is that the committees used to be two separate committees. I think there was difficulty staffing both of them, or getting volunteers for both.
It was volunteers, yeah. Probably about 6 or 7 years ago, the two committees combined, and the membership expanded from 5 members of each to 7 members total. And the reason was staffing was pretty good. It used to be the recreation department staff, the trails committee, the planning department staff, the conservation committee, and they each just would go through these ebbs and flows of not even having enough members to have a quorum. And so there was interest in both, and after speaking to the members at the time and the select board agreed to combine the two, for conservation and trails. They used to meet together jointly anyways for half their meeting, to review a lot of the stuff together, and that's the history behind it. But yeah, it was largely based around just lack of interest and difficulty getting volunteers to step up.
Yep. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, I misspoke when I said staffing earlier. I meant
Oh no, yeah,
volunteers.
yeah,
I meant
volunteers, yeah.
having enough volunteers.
Mhm.
Staff in that perspective, not staff as employees.
Sure, yep.
All right. Thanks, Betsy. So I guess that finishes our interviews, and again, we'll have a discussion later. Moving on to business item E. Thank you for everybody who attended. Feel free to stay for the rest of the meeting if you like. We'll get back to you tomorrow. Moving on to business item 5E. Consider approval of winter operations plan for 2021-2022. This Dennis?
Come on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. It's been a long summer. I hate to think of it, but the nights are turning colder and it is going to be coming closer and closer to winter. So we've developed a winter operations plan. I will say that this is likely to be my last one. Under my overall responsibility. I don't think I'll be here for the one next year, but we'll see what happens. We put this together over time, and obviously it's changed immensely in the years I've been here. Not necessarily because Public Works put it together, but because we shared our thoughts with other communities, both in the state and out of state, and each year tried to make an improvement to the plan. In my view, and this is some recommendations that you're going to find, maybe because I'm getting shorter, I can make them. But I think if the two communities head in different directions, it's really important to keep this kind of document alive in both communities. The first section is very generic. It's almost any community in the state or even out of state could pick up that first section. There's 3 sections and use it, covering the basic stuff that everyone really does, where our supplies come from, where we get our weather forecasts. We use it for training. We use it for a lot of various reasons. And then the second section is specific to the town, and the third section is specific to the village. So it'd be very easy if, in fact, there is a difference in direction to create 2 separate documents, but contain the important information. And why is that important? And the plan calls it out, and people can go to the webpage and read whatever part of the plan they want. It's long, we know that, but you can pick and choose kind of the sections that are important to you. But the plan sets the playing field between management, which is the elected officials, and the players, which is the Public Works Department and highway crew. It also informs the fans, if you will, the residents of what to expect. I'm using a sports analogy, but fans don't always agree with what's called for a play, but they need to know how and why those plays are called. And that's why we have the winter operations plan. It lays out a groundwork. We use it, as I said earlier, for training of our employees. so that we try to keep things as consistent as we can for operating under policy that the board set, and to inform the public of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and to answer a lot of questions that if people do pick up the plan and read it, may avoid a phone call to the office, which when we're busy in the winter, quite honestly, we don't always have a need for. We'll take them, we'll do them, but if the information's in the plan, it's kind of a good first source to go to. Before we begin, I hate to start off this way, but I'll acknowledge 2 errors in the plan, and you need to know that. Tracy brought up one earlier today in a discussion, and I appreciate her doing that because it brought something out. I won't go to the page, but if you go to page T13, and that's the town section, it indicates that mailboxes will be replaced at $45 a year if the town damages them, when in fact the board changed that last year to $50. It's reflected in 2 other places in the plan, one in the village comments and another place in the handouts we give to people whose mailboxes we hit as being 50. So that needs to be changed so it is at least 50. I'll come back to this later, but I do have a concern. If there's a standing mailbox that the town hits, our replacement standard has been to replace it with a standard pole setup and a standard metal box. If it's more, then that's up to the homeowner to pay for. We try to keep that cost to what the homeowner would actually buy. So Tracy's phone call today sparked me to kind of look on Lowe's website because I know wood has gone up. Lumber is costing more. The standard metal box right now at our local big box supplier is $43. Post setup, the 4x4 with the setup with the arm sticking out, if you will, ranges from a low cost of $29 to a high cost of $37. So the cost of replacing a mailbox, if we were to hit it, is somewhere between $72 and $80. And this is something I'll return to later at the end of my discussion, but I think that, in my opinion anyway, the $50 no longer would cover. If the homeowner wants to place their own mailbox, that cost that the town provides should kind of reflect the current cost of providing that. They have the option, we can come out and we will pay for that and put it in place. It does provide a little bit of background to the fact that, there are a lot of the mailboxes that are out there aren't the low cost metal box and pole. They're much more, and that we won't pay for, but at least it would offset what we could provide at kind of the low end of the totem pole. The second item is, for somehow this slipped past us, we prepared one, but it didn't make it into the draft that's on the webpage or that you received. There's an organization chart in the town section, I think it's one of the appendices, that doesn't reflect the change that has occurred that placed Aaron Martin in the position of Director of Operations. It shows the old system. This is the newer arrangement of how Public Works now operates. The buildings manager reports directly to me. Chris, our secretary, reports to both Aaron and I. But if you go down below Aaron, Aaron is responsible for essentially the operations at all those other levels. We talk daily more than daily, a number of times a day on all these issues, but the bottom line is that he is now kind of the prime go-to person for winter operations. If there's complaints, if there's changes that have to be made, he will work with them, he'll work with me on them, but he's the direct person in line. And we did that in anticipation of changes that will occur in my position during the course of the next year or almost a year from now. So I wanted to make that clear that we will put in to the approved plan when it gets approved by the select board, take out the old one. If there's any changes to the mailbox issue, we can do that too. I'll keep going. I'm going to try to keep this very short. I'm not going to get into the plan directly, just some comments. There are two versions. The internal version is not on the webpage. We keep it intact in the office, and for people who need to have things like home phone numbers, cell phone numbers of employees, radio communications links, things that really the public does not need, nor do we want out in the public. The external one has everything. If you were to look at both copies, everything is the same except for phone numbers and radio call signs essentially pulled out of the document. So, but there are two versions. We run internally on ours, but for the public, it's the same animal missing just those things. Unfortunately, and we all know, COVID is still with us. It's not going anywhere, and in my view, and this is just my opinion only, we're going to be with COVID or related illnesses of this kind and pandemics for, I think, an extended period of time. I don't think this animal is going away soon. It may end up being like the standard flu where we can take a pill, but the bottom line is it does, at least for this winter especially, affect or has the ability to affect our operations. So we decided in the plan to retain the alert system that we set up last year, red, yellow, green. We hope our winter is entirely green, which means we're going to operate under the plan as we've always done it. If it goes to yellow, things will slow down, and it may, be a 4 to 6 hour delay, and that could be equipment. It could be people being absent. It could be any one of a number of things. We've retained red, which is, that's when things get kind of rough for all of us because we may not be able to get all the vehicles on the road in a timely manner. We may find some roads that we'd normally get done, by noon of one day if you're starting early in the morning, and you may not get to them till the next day. And that, I think people have to understand. We will start out in the green mode. The main web page will not show anything. It will only show a change. So if we go to yellow or go to red, it would show that change. Otherwise, people can assume we're operating in the green mode, and if they want to know what that is, they can go to the winter operations plan and get a feel for what we're doing there. One of the issues we have for this winter that we're not sure of right now, and this is unusual for all the public works directors in Vermont and around the area. Usually by now, we have at least three vendors in the state that we purchase salt from. And usually by this time of year, we have contracts in place, known cost contracts. No one has yet received their salt prices for the year. So it's an unknown. We budgeted this year a higher amount than last on a price per ton basis, reduced the amount a little bit because we've had a couple of good winters, but the price we estimated was higher. At this point, we don't know. Questions about what is it going to cost? What's the availability? Are there supply problems? If you look at the supply chain on almost everything, you'll find shelves empty from time to time, reduced stockage. I don't think this is going to be any different. So it's going to be not necessarily a fun winter in terms of supplies, but at this point, it's an unknown for us. They've been telling us as late as today, they'll have an answer out this week as to what the prices will be. But in the plan, it does indicate a price per ton that we paid. I think it's on page 8 of the plan. But in fact, that was our budget price, not our actual price for what it's going to cost us. So we won't know that for a little while. The winter weather will determine how much we use. And so it's both the usage and the cost per ton will determine how we come out at the end of the year. That's a budget item. There are some changes to the plan that I think, you'll have to excuse me, I'm working at a small table. We had our carpets cleaned and I got relegated to a very tiny desk with no space. So I'm trying to find my way through the documents here, but we did make a few changes with regard to sidewalk plowing, and I want to cover that. We have two essentially relatively new in good shape sidewalk plows, which is the first time we've had this for a long time. The issue is we hope to hire another temporary help. We've not gotten that temporary help yet. So that may rely that we've got to dig even deeper than we have into our existing workforce and pull people out of normal positions that we would use, like the town mechanic and other things to help us try to keep the sidewalk clear. Hopefully we'll find that temporary help and that will make a big dent in the winter. But right now, labor is more of a concern for us than equipment. Equipment's in my view is probably in the best shape it's been in years. one of the things we did want to put in, because this seems to be a controversy every year, and I wanted to write it out this year. Bear with me. It's on page T6 in the town section, and I'll read it. It's a very short sentence. Sidewalk plowing will generally not occur if the snow cover is 2 inches or less in depth. The town does not have a bare sidewalk policy. If it snows out and we get a snowstorm, we're going to be out doing sidewalks. But we have reached points in time where the snow may dribble down, and all of a sudden you've got an inch or inch and a half on the sidewalk. It's really, in a lot of cases, counterproductive to remove that. And I don't think that the town has ever had what I would call a bare sidewalk policy. And so I put that in the plan this year. That may be something you want to talk about, but that's a change. We have added some sidewalks this year. Even without the labor issue, we wanted to make sure that we covered areas that have been requested by people. In those areas where we can do it, we took a lot of time this summer. We spent probably close to $50,000 out of our budget to make ADA ramps and make the town a little more ADA accessible. We've still got a lot to go, but there are a lot of sidewalks out there that are 4 feet wide and that have utility boxes, have poles, have all kinds of items that that create a space that's less than 4 feet. We can't get through, and those have to be rebuilt over time. So I had to pick those areas that we could generally extend our existing service without going all the way in another part of the town where there's no service, and finish some of those and expand some of our coverage. So one of the ones we did is we have a new sidewalk on Pinecrest Drive that connects Suffolk Lane to 2A and essentially all the way around that western end of the town. That will be done this year. We hope that the shared path that started on Route 15 between Susie Wilson and essentially the hospital complex and actually over to St. Mike's, we hope that gets done this winter. There have been problems. It's a V-Trans project. They've run into some subsurface condition problems that weren't expected or planned for. I don't know which. I don't know what the story is totally, but that project has been slowed. So with that project, if it's not done, we probably will not be plowing that area because there's some areas of gravel between which are essentially pretty unsafe. And unfinished, totally unfinished. There's grass going up in some areas that they had started. So that's an iffy proposition. Our plan is to do that if they finish. We have contracted S&D Landscaping. They've contracted with us for a couple of years to do the sidewalks in Carmichael Street in that area. We've expanded that slightly, and we've made a decision. I'm going to steal this from my other sheet so I can better do it. We made a decision to have them do the loop that goes all the way around the Woodlawn areas. There's an outer loop that covers Essex Way and Sydney Drive. We're not doing the internal streets. They have a contract with the homeowners association there for a lot of the side streets and part of that street. That was one that we could easily add. They will be doing that for us this year under contract. The town will be picking that up. But it's just that one, the Essex Way, Sydney Drive loop, as well as Freeman Woods, which is one of the side streets that goes up to, there's a medical complex up there and a housing complex largely for the elderly, and that's going to be plowed. We've had some concerns in the past on Sage Circle where the kids wait for the bus, and we have been plowing on the north side of that. We're going to plow now on the south side. That came to our attention. It's an easy change. We're going to do that. We're going to do the sidewalk in Craftsbury Court north to the intersection with Cabot Drive, and from Cabot Drive to Old Stage Road. And then we're going to do the sidewalk in Weathersfield Bow to the intersection of Fox Run Road and Fox Run Road. And people will understand that if they look at the map. So we've added some sidewalk coverage. We hope we can pull it off. Like I say, it's labor dependent, but that's our plan. And if the plan is approved, we're going to do our best to try to comply with that plan. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to cover. There is another issue that came up last year, and it came up with regard to garbage cans. And it's crazy as it seems. It's one of those things that people will set out their garbage for the garbage collection to be made. And sometimes your garbage collectors will leave the garbage cans out in the middle of the road. Sometimes the homeowners will put it out farther into the road. We wanted to make sure that if people want the street plowed, those garbage cans, they need to talk to their vendor and try to have them put back in their driveway, or at least off the main portion of the traveled way. We've hit some last year. It wasn't happy for the people where we hit some of those cans. And some of the areas we had to basically go back a couple times until we could get those garbage cans moved and get things plowed out, so we weren't destroying the garbage containers. We just think there's a better way to do that, and that better way is communications with your vendor to both yourself when you put your garbage out, where to put it, and when you're talking to your vendor, getting them to understand that when they get done, and if they're doing it by machine or whatever else, they put it back in a location that we don't hit when we go plow. I think, let me see if there's anything else. And I guess the last one would be to go back to return to the mailbox reimbursement. What you feel about that? Other than that, document in draft form is on the webpage. The changes are in red. The black is the same as it's been in the past. And with that, I'll entertain any questions that you have.
All right, thank you, Dennis. Any board member questions? Go ahead, Pat.
Dennis, first of all, thanks. Appreciate the expansion of some sidewalk plowing. We certainly, I think, hear that quite a bit from residents. The question I have, though, it may not even be specifically related to winter plan, but I think it's going to come up in it. We know that CDL drivers in particular are really in short supply these days. How comfortable do you feel with what the town has asset-wise for whether it be employees or, I know you did speak earlier that you were looking for a temporary, help coming in and haven't been able to find it. But since this is a larger issue really across the country right now, are you comfortable with where we are with the number of CDL drivers we have at the moment? Or is there something that we should maybe be looking at over the next year or two? Is there something that we need to maybe get some current employees who don't have a CDL trained up? Is that something we could look at? Just wondering your thoughts on that. I'd rather be looking at it now than next winter if we lose 2 people and all of a sudden can't plow through the streets.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I appreciate it. It's a little bit hard to answer in some respects. I see every day across my desk, Vermont Transportation Agency has a Vermont Roads website that they use, and they advertise for employees in there. And the honest truth is we're robbing each other's employees. We're stealing from our own. And if you look through that list, I would bet in the last 2 weeks, I've seen job advertisements. I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Wilson's had 2 on the table for most of the summer. I noticed Bristol showed up with 1. If you just look, almost all the communities, even adjacent to us, are looking for people. Well, how do they find them? The CDL is a license, but it's an entry-level license. And if driving a sidewalk plow is a little bit different than driving the trucks. But when you're driving one of the large trucks, and we've got essentially 8 of them right now, 5 large ones and 3 what I would call intermediate size, you don't become a good plow operator probably for 3 to 5 years. And it's dangerous to put someone out on one of those plows who has a CDL and has never plowed before. People will get hurt. You just can't do that. If you sat in the cab of those devices and you look at all the controls and what goes on, I mean, they're driving down the road at 4 o'clock in the morning when it's dark. They're watching for people because some people are out. They're trying to avoid mailboxes. They're trying to avoid that car that comes at them. They're trying to stay on the right-hand side of the center line. They're moving their plow blade up and down. They're moving their wings up and down. They're looking at how much salt they're applying. And they're trying to do this and do it safely and not have an accident. And we've been lucky because we've had really skilled, good employees who've done it for a long time. That workforce is leaving us. I have one employee who has the number of years right now, could retire tomorrow. I have a second employee who could retire tomorrow, but is going to stay through the winter till next spring. We've got to replace those people. And you're not going to, the only way we're going to find them today, quite honestly, and I don't want to do this, is rob other towns. And you rob other towns by offering them better benefits and higher salaries. Or an opportunity to move from a smaller community where they may only have 3 people and you're up all night long, every night, to a larger community where the burden is shared. It's a tough situation. And so the sidewalk plow is a little bit different. I mean, I would love to have 2 permanent employees for the winter time that do nothing, that have learned the sidewalks and plow them and avoid tearing up lawns and everything else. But that's also expensive, because it isn't just salaries, it's benefits. And even if you're talking about, minimum level salaries, $17, $18 an hour, and benefits, you do the math on that, that's a sizable sum of money. Would I love to have that, because it would make our job so much easier? The public would be happier, the damage would be less that we do. We'd be able to get out there more, clean them off better. But in the reality is it's an expensive proposition. So we've always had to play that balance game between staying within budgets, making things affordable, staying within the budgets that have been given to us, and doing our job. And we've been lucky. I think we've been good at it because we've had good people. But it's a little scary heading down the road into the future, because a lot of our employees, the workforce that really wants to work are the people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. And I hate to say this, I've got some great younger people, but on the whole, those people are going to be harder the older people we've got are going to be harder to replace because of their experience, their skill, and their dedication. And it's harder to instill that in the younger people. And so, the ideal kid that might come in to do a sidewalk snowplow might be a farm kid who's operated on a tractor from the time he was 10. Great opportunity. How many kids are staying on the farm now? They aren't. Well, it's a great question, but it's not a great outlook, I guess is what I'm saying. As I kind of come towards the end of my career, I wonder where we are going. And it isn't just, and I won't digress too much farther, but it isn't just that. Now try to find a qualified water and sewer operator to run a treatment plant. Where do you find them? You can't pay to have them go to all the classes and wait for an opening. You hire them at the entry level and train them, and you don't get that skill back for, again, 3, 4, 5 years. It's an investment that has to be made, but it's a huge jump. So what you hope is you maybe lose a person a year. Okay, you replace one, you train them under the existing crew. The next year you lose a person, you train them. If you lose 3 or 4 in a year, I think whatever community that is, they're in trouble.
So it sounds like we should probably start looking now for something that we're going to need 3, 4 years down the road, or at least ideally getting them trained up is going to take that long.
Yeah, and it's a problem for Essex, but it's a problem for our industry. I mean, we all notice it. We've all gone to the trade schools. We've gone to other places to try to sell people in this kind of an occupation. It's a good job. It's a well-paying job. It's great benefits. Hard to find.
I would just add, maybe it is not a just-in-time profession, right? And Dennis said this. I would ask you, if you have never taken a tour with one of our public works employees plowing, sit in a truck for a couple of hours and see what our employees do for our citizens in the middle of the night. It is a large vehicle. It has a wing plow. It has people who decided they should be in front of our plow, and sometimes they're too close to the rear of the plow and they can't be seen. And it has an average weight of what, Dennis? 20, something like 10,000 pounds, 20,000 pounds.
It's more than that.
No, when it's
fully loaded, it can be up a lot more than that. It can be up to 35, 40,000 pounds. That's a lot.
So it doesn't corner. It doesn't stop as well as one would think. And so it becomes more of an art than anything else. And as Dennis mentioned, it could take upwards of 3 to 5 years to get very good at what you do. And when you're sitting in there and everybody thinks there's a steering wheel at, maybe there's a whole bunch of controls just to your right about the wing plow and all this stuff of how you're trying to operate. And our employees don't just do one straight route. They do a lot of different areas. And Dennis, I'm going to tax your brain. What's our elevation change?
Want to talk probably 1,500 feet, maybe?
So down here near 81 Main, it could be drizzling. And up in the upper parts of the town, it could be snowing like a blizzard. So with that, one of the things Dennis and I have talked about is staffing. When do some people are getting a little bit older, they haven't announced their retirement, but it's coming. Do you add that extra person now, pay that price, get them trained up, and when that person does retire, we are in a better shape. So we do that also. Sometimes we look at that in like the police department. You don't know exactly when somebody's going to retire, but it's coming. And he is absolutely right. We are just stealing from each other. And we try to help our other villages as well when they need it, but we're not going to be able to go to Williston or Colchester if it's snowing here. And after our people have been out for 4 to 6 hours. The other thing we do is a lot of our people don't live here. And so if you think about it, if they live 30, 40 minutes away or an hour away, are they really going to drive home? And by the way, when they go home, their driveways are waiting for them, and then we need to get them back. We also need them to be refreshed. So it's a real big dance about, how you attack a storm. And I give Dennis and Aaron and the men and women of the Public Works Department great respect and kudos for doing that dance for what actually ends up being about 5 months every year. It could start snowing tomorrow. It's October, right? You guys have had Halloween storms, right? And then winter starts, and then you get that fun storm in March. That could be slushy, icy, whatever. So they do a great job, but it's tough. And I'm sorry, I actually didn't realize we hadn't received our salt price yet. That's scaring me.
Yeah. Me also.
Go ahead,
Well,
Don.
actually, on what Evan just said, are you concerned about the availability of salt, or that the price that you budgeted for at the was $85 per ton was your top price? They'll go over that.
I'm not so much, we deal with the economics of it because I operate under a fairly large budget. So that if we go over, we've always done it. If we go over in the winter, we'll probably take care of pave one less road next summer. If we're under, we use that to put back into the system. So the money isn't so much the concern. The concern would be, obviously, if it went up $20 a ton from where it was last year, that's a whole different animal. I don't think it's going to do that. I think it will go up, but not that much. But I'm more concerned about just supply availability. Our supplies basically come from about 3 different locations, if you will. One out of the Boston, New Hampshire area, one out of the Montreal area, and then from the salt mines that are over New York, and they're brought over by train. But it goes to is the product there? Are they mining it? Can the truckers take it from, or the trains take it from here to our location, store it, and provide it to us when we need it? And that's more of my concern about what goes on. We've gone through a couple winters like this, and it isn't fun, because we get to a point we start looking at our salt shed, and there's not much left. And all of a sudden, that you've got 2 more months of winter. So one of the objectives would be longer term, in terms of one of the things that I would love to see, but we haven't been able to pull off, would be essentially to build a larger storage shed, to be quite honest. We store about a third of what we need right now, and the shed is on its last leg. It's concrete up about halfway and wood above that, and if you look real closely, some of that wood doesn't look too healthy. The village has a much better arrangement. The village has 3 large concrete bunkers that you can, you'd have to do it over a couple of years, but you increase your stockpile, you build it, you increase your stockpile each year, and about the 3rd year out, you would have a winter storage. And that's what the state does. They buy all their salt for the following winter, and then they resupply into their sheds for the next winter. And we can't do that. 2/3 of our supply has to be brought in, and we're not unique. But that would be a capital improvement from the building point of view. That, well, the suggestion would be tear down our 2 salt sheds, put up a decent sized one that will handle that kind of volume, and then start to basically supplement each year a little bit so that we get to a point where we've got that full year supply on hand. And then if stuff goes to heck in a handbasket in a given year, hey, we're covered. Fill it back up in June. We're fine.
Thank you, Dennis.
Go ahead, Tracy.
So a few questions, and Dennis, based on how you just stated that, I'm assuming that we do not have the storage capacity to store more salt. On page 8, I see that we store 80% of needed winter sand, 40% of average winter salt. So I'm assuming
Right.
that those are stored in different manners. They have different needs. They need to be stored differently. Is that correct?
Yeah, the sand is left outside. Many, many years ago, they used to add some salt to it, and we found that was a disaster because you put that on the back roads in the spring, it all turns to mud. So it's basically, we set up the sand storage so that it's in a location that's just left open. It does get wet. Sometimes it gets frozen, and we have devices to basically break it up. The salt's got to be kept under cover for both an environmental purpose, so we don't get runoff and problems that way, and also so that we don't lose product. So that has to be kept under cover, and we've got a couple different things. We've got 2 sheds up there. We've got what I call my cloth Quonset hut that we put up to house the grader in because the public works garage couldn't hold the grader and all the trucks in the wintertime. So we put that up, but we've now taken the grader out of that and used that for salt storage. So we've maximized what we can do there within the buildings we have. A taller, larger building, both depth, I think, wouldn't have to be any close to the neighbors, but taller, 3 bays, more extending into the yard would give us kind of the storage we need for the future.
Yeah, and knowing the sort of finickiness with the supply chain and logistics of shipping and getting things, I was going to ask whether we could purchase more of our needed salt, anticipating delays, but it sounds like we can't. So it answers that question. My next question was over the potential increase in costs for replacing mailboxes based on what it would cost to actually go and buy the base model. Do you know off the top of your head what the average annual spend has been in recent years for mailbox replacement?
No, I don't. I'm just, I can tell you kind of the numbers. My guess is during the course of the winter, we probably will replace 30 to 40 mailboxes, somewhere in that range. I mean, that's kind of a rough figure. And we can go along great for 2 months, and then we get that odd snowstorm where, it's just really heavy, and we go along with our plows, and a lot of times just the weight of the heavy snow, if it isn't well attached, will knock it off or break the post. And again, we try to check these. During this fall, we go around, and if there's a really bad mailbox or one that needs repair, we'll send a letter or a note to the homeowner to say, you need to get that fixed, because if it breaks down this winter, in a nice way, don't come looking to us to pay for it. But probably in the order of 30 to 40. It's not a huge item on the budget. It's affordable within what we do. In my view, if we were to set a fair value for that, my recommendation would be around $75 as opposed to the $50.
Okay.
And maybe that's just due to the big increase in price of wood. I don't know, but it's much more than, it's not much more, but it's more than the $50.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks.
Any other board questions? Okay, if not, I'd like to open it up to the public. If anybody in the public has a question, please raise your hand in the Teams or put a comment in chat, or if you're in the room, you can raise your hand physically. See any hands in the room? And I don't see any hands online either. Okay, then I guess, oh, there's one. Gina.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can I ask if there's, thanks for the rundown, Dennis, that was great. Can I ask if there's ever any coordination between the plow routes and the schools to ensure that our kids are safe when they're waiting for their buses, in particular in Essex Center?
The answer is yes. We've had meetings with them. We haven't had a meeting yet this fall. Usually we wait for us to get this done and then we'll go meet with them on specifics. But we do try to address that. If there's a particular issue on a corner or something like that, we'll try to work that out. We did change our winter operations significantly when the school went to the walk to school program for kids that lived closer to the school. So we're trying to do an earlier job of clearing those streets. We've added some of the sidewalks that are on the walk route to the school, so that we can, get them there safely. My biggest concern has always been that, and this is really for parents. I mean, as Evan said, these are heavy machines and they're hard to stop. And the more that parents, and we've had situations where we've contacted homeowners or associations, if kids are out waiting for the school bus in a group and they're playing around snowbanks and running around and our plow is coming through, it's dangerous. And that's where we need to keep them on the sidewalk side of things, or at least out of the street. We haven't had any close calls, thank God, but I always worry about that. And the other issue is that with winter coming, it gets dark early. And so if kids are coming home from a sports program or whatever it is, late in the day, and even for adults, I mean, elderly people, anybody, myself walking, if I'm going to be walking around at dark, I need to put something on that's reflective. And that's something that, we don't see all the time, but it's so important because those drivers, especially if they've been up for a long time and they're tired, boy, you see somebody with a reflective vest or even a sash across their vest, you can see them, you can avoid them. And, thank God up to this point, at least from the time I've been in the town, we've never had an injury to any of the kids or any of the adults from our side, from our plows. But it can happen. And if parents can do their job, then we'll try to do ours. But yes, we do meet with the school.
If I can add, Dennis, normally we have a pre-winter meeting with the school. We also discuss any changes to the bus routes, so that you guys can be prepared of, where the buses are supposed to stop, so that we know that if there's plowing or places we're going to put snow, they don't conflict with the bus routes. The bus routes are getting a bit longer, I've been told, because of the lack of bus drivers. And yes, you are correct. Kids in the streets are, depending on if we're doing our operations, also kids playing in snow piles. Sometimes we do come back and have to remove those snow piles. And it's a very scary feeling when you go into a snow pile with a front end loader and a kid pops up. Or they go in with a blade to move it and a kid pops up. Just for everything, we do coordinate with the schools and do the best we can for what their operations are.
All right, thank you, Gina. Any other public comments? Okay, I don't see any. I guess the one thing that maybe we need to discuss as a board is whether to go to the $75 mailbox replacement that Dennis recommended.
I was gonna put that into the
Put into an when we do the motion, everybody okay with that? Seems like that. And then the other change is the organizational chart that's in the document that we had. It's incorrect. So those would be I guess, the two changes that I saw.
Okay.
Is there anything else that we need to discuss or?
Okay. I make the motion that now this recommendation says select board and trustees. We can't do it. I have to
Just say
just on the select board.
Yep.
Okay, I make the motion that we approve the winter operations plan for 2021 and 2022 with the following changes: that the organizational chart be changed to reflect what's really going on, and that we authorize $75 per mailbox replacement.
Thank you, Don. Go a second.
Second.
Thank you, Pat. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Dennis.
And thank you.
Thank you very much and good night.
Yes.
Yep, great. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item. I am going to pass the gavel over to Pat, since this is essentially an equity discussion. So go ahead, Pat.
Great. Thank you, Andy. So our next topic of discussion is going to be consideration for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll set some background and then ask staff to tee up the rest of it. But since COVID occurred and we moved to online meetings for over a year, the Pledge of Allegiance, which we spoke at the beginning of all of our select board meetings, it was just something that became really difficult, if not impossible, to do online. So it was simply dropped. It has been mentioned before to us that the absence of it has been noted. But I think that we have also, at the same time, over this last 18 months, been speaking internally here in the municipality, and a larger question certainly out in the public and the rest of the country about equity issues. And so looking at some of the traditions that we do and deciding whether or not they are still applicable, if they maybe cause some harm that we aren't aware of, and we want to make sure that we're making all of our decisions with this sort of equity and inclusion lens. Staff, is there something more specific that you'd like to talk about before we kind of go into things?
I think the memo covers a lot of it. Marguerite Ladd, our assistant manager, for anyone listening in at home who doesn't know her, she brought the question and the issue to the Committee on Equity for Essex, which is the internal group that we have. They found some resources that are proposed in the memo, and posed some questions to the select board as you look into this and give it some consideration and some thoughts. Some of those questions that the committee brought up are what's the goal or purpose of stating the Pledge of Allegiance ahead of a meeting? Is it a unifying act to state the Pledge of Allegiance? Is there a better community statement, pledge, or song that could be more focused and feel more appropriate for the community? And does the community want to continue stating the Pledge of Allegiance even though its history and original purpose may be at odds at why the community states it today? They gave one example of a different pledge. The Essex Police Department does it. There's a statement from the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and there's a link in the memo about that. So mostly it's just some resources and some thinking and talking points as the select board gives this topic some consideration.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Evan, anything to add?
Nope.
Okay, great. Then I guess I'll open it up first for questions amongst the board, and then we can go to the public. I think really probably, even if it's just not questions, just weighing in. As a board, we need to decide what we want to do at the beginning of our meetings. The only thing I think I would ask around this is that, certainly it could be a sensitive topic. I think people are very rightly justified in, feeling strongly about the flag and the Pledge of Allegiance. For I think most of us, we all grew up doing it at the beginning of school every day. But it certainly doesn't mean that, it's not worth taking a look at and, deciding if it's something that's still appropriate, something that we still want. So even if we don't have any questions, I think hearing from us as board members is going to be very helpful. And the only other thing I would add is that I don't think that we're going to come to a conclusion tonight. We don't necessarily want to. We want to start the discussion and then potentially bring in some of the Essex Best members, at a subsequent meeting before we make a final decision, so that we're getting as much public input as we really want as well. So with that, select board members, Tracy, please.
I just wanted to say thank you for all of the links compiled in the packet. That was very informative.
I'll pass that on to Marguerite and the committee. Thank you.
Great. Anyone else? Dawn, Andy?
New citizens have to take the Pledge of Allegiance, is that correct? When new citizens, they become a citizen, don't they have to take the pledge?
I'm not familiar with the new citizen process.
I would be curious to find out,
It's a great
because
question.
that seems to be, you know what I'm saying, is what
Yeah.
you're saying here, and if every new citizen has to take that pledge, I mean, I don't know. I was raised to say the Pledge of Allegiance, so I guess I'm comfortable with it.
In our research, however, sorry, Mr. Chair, but in our research, we could not find that the pledge was required in any opening of a public meeting in the state of Vermont. I too did about 13 to 14 years of grammar school. And we did the pledge, but again, nobody explained to any student why.
Right.
You just,
That's
that's the way
something
your
we
day
did.
started. And again, going through the equity work, and I too did about 13 to 14 years of grammar school. And it's 8 of grammar school and 4 of high school. So it's a question. It is what is appropriate for this community. And as Greg mentioned, and we don't know if this is a one meeting discussion, maybe give it some thought. People do a little research, but it is, to what you feel is appropriate. You could even do 2 things if you wanted to at the beginning. You do the pledge and something else. You can do a mission statement. But there is a segment of our population that may feel that the pledge is not exactly something they see as their value. But that's the discussion. Things change over time.
Yes, Andy.
Yeah, I know that the school district no longer requires it. And it's not said in schools, hasn't been for, it's been a couple of years since the pledge has been said at the start of school days. And actually I was surprised to read that Vermont is one of 4 states where in 46 states it's required by law that all schools start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Vermont, Iowa, Wyoming, and Hawaii are only 4 that don't have that either repealed that or didn't have it. I don't know how that, whether it was a repeal or whether it was in existence before. But Vermont is one of 4 states that doesn't require it being in school day, in public school day. But anyway, given that many of our residents, I should pick the wrong word, many of our residents are not citizens, it may be uncomfortable for them. There's also the potentially awkward phrase of "under God" that was added during the Cold War. So I don't know. I guess it's definitely worth having a discussion. Don't want to alienate people, but I do understand also that it's a potentially passionate concern for some to not say it.
We could replace it with a civility one we were doing. Seemed to be
Right,
very
or some
popular.
modification of that, right?
Yep. I think there is some value as well, in knowing that we could potentially also say to if we needed to. One that has come up in some of our equity discussions is there's an acknowledgement at the beginning of the Abenaki lands that we're on, which I've always felt was very powerful and also fits very well with where we are, living in Vermont, knowing the history of the Native Americans who are here is certainly strong. So we're not trying to, I don't think, limit anyone, but you're right, Andy, about I think the non-citizens who do come, and then there are also I had someone who wants to. They didn't want to be identified, but they said that they had issues with the justice for all part. They don't feel as a BIPOC member of the community that they necessarily have the same opportunities for justice that the rest of us do, and that in particular was just that wasn't something that I had thought of before. But it's included in there, and I always skimmed over it, just not really even thinking as a kid. So
Well, I think we all just memorized the words and not really understood the meaning of them, truthfully.
Yeah.
It was something you did every morning, but you really just, it was something you did by rote without really understanding what you were. I could understand the justice. Oh,
Yep.
I have no problem not doing the club, but I do think we should replace it with something. But then again, even though I like the Abenaki one is nice, but then we're picking out one group of people. Whereas we did something like the civility one, everybody.
great point, though. Thank you. Any other board members?
Yeah.
And I will open it to the public. I will take room questions first because it's going to be easier. If you have a public comment, something you want to include, give us your thoughts in the room, please feel free to raise your hand. And after that, I'll have to ask Andy's assistance for our online participants. All right, nothing in the room. Thoughts from anyone online who wants to chime in the discussion?
I'm not seeing
Wow,
any hands.
Patrick.
Okay. Well, if we have no further comments, I think we as a board certainly are going to research it, and I really want to hear from Essex Best. Once they have an internal discussion to bring to us, they gave us some good information, and the municipal equity group as well, putting together these links. But especially since no one is commenting tonight, I feel it's going to be really valuable to have at least one more session about this, so we can get some feedback. Otherwise, it's just going to be us, and everyone else will have to hold their peace.
Can I
Yes, please.
maybe
Andy.
make a suggestion? Is I don't know if there a couple of options have been posed tonight. One being the I guess the Abenaki one, or then the civility one that we've done a few times as well. I don't know if there are other options. If anybody has any suggestions or any willingness to go look for other options to consider, I think that might be helpful at some point if we decide to replace with something different to start off the meeting.
I'd be happy to do that. I think it certainly would be
Yeah.
fitting. I'll see if I can find a small handful of different pledges and send them to the larger group for our next discussion on this, so that we need some alternatives that we can pick from, assuming that it meets with everyone's satisfaction. Great, thank you, Andy.
All right, thanks, Pat. All right, I guess moving on to agenda item 5G, discussion of potential action on tentative agreements about shared services. We did get some new agreements at our last joint meeting that we didn't have the opportunity to discuss because they came with very short notice. And we also have some documents that have been updated since our discussion last week. So Do we want to go through these?
Have these all been shared with the trustees, the new ones that we got?
Yeah,
They haven't had a chance to discuss them. They came in, last Monday right before your joint meeting, but they,
so let's see, they're not meeting, they're meeting next week, right?
next Tuesday.
Okay. Um, do we want to go through these to see if there's any additional comments from, all right, so I guess starting with the MOU, I think is what's first in the listing. Very small change on the first page is the first agreement has been changed to be called police services agreement rather than contract for police services. We also added delinquent tax agreement as at G, and then we added another category, a subcategory, a second tier, I guess, of agreements that we recognize need to be discussed before a separation would occur, but potentially don't need to be completely closed before signing of this agreement if we decide to do that. So senior bus center, let's see what we got here. We got senior center and bus, sorry. Tree farm, building use and maintenance, and administration transmission, and then the question of how do we deal with shared boards and committees. Then put into a second tier. Again, the trustees haven't seen this concept, or haven't discussed it yet, but we had proposed. Go ahead, Tracy.
Just to note that second tier, it's the only fonts in black there, but it also includes Indian Brook and EJRP program access.
Right, thank you for pointing that out. You're right, I was only looking at the red changes. You're right, thank you. Yep. The other thing that we modified in here is we put an end date, the termination date for the agreement as the end of the current biennium, which would be the conclusion of the 2022 legislative session. We actually, we're very explicit and said 2021, 2022, so that there's an end date to this agreement and would need to be rediscussed and extended if desired at that point. Let's see, what's this here? Provided the condition precedent set forth in section 1 above is satisfied. So I think this is saying that we intend to sign the tentative agreements provided that they are agreed upon, that all of them are agreed upon. Right. We also added a stipulation that the MOU shall terminate on the execution of the agreement set forth in section 1. So this is essentially an agreement to make an agreement. So once those agreements are in place, then this agreement is no longer needed.
That's right.
That makes
Try to say that carefully. I didn't even practice. It
That was
You
good.
did well.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the MOU. Any other?
I think
Board.
it looks good.
Could we seek public comment on each of these as we go through, or
Can we do them and then get public comment at the end?
And that tends to be fast.
do it at the end? Do that then. All right. So next one, looking at police services agreements. Let's see. I don't think we substantive changes in there. We did make a comment in there about it was originally worded as quarterly payments, but we wanted to check with Sarah to see what her preference might be, whether the finance department had a different opinion there. I don't know if they. So the phrase or on such other schedule as mutually agreed upon by the parties, so that could, the quarterly would necessarily be found. The select board then proposed that the indirect costs be a fixed 3.5% of the direct costs, which was the midpoint between 2 and 5, which was what Sarah had suggested as a cost potential range. Yeah, we're all okay with that.
And I believe that's what the trustees stated also, wasn't it?
They have not responded explicitly to our saying 3.5. I think they said 3 to 3.5. What was said in the last meeting. They have not yet responded to our saying 3.5. There's still a question here about there's essentially two potential true ups. If the first one's done in the quarter immediately after the end of the fiscal year, it's possible that the internal audit would not be complete, but there could be the request from the village is that the city, village slash city, is that there's a true up in that first quarter, but our audit usually doesn't complete until sometime during the second quarter after the end of the fiscal year. So there's a potential to have to do 2 true ups. So we just, there's a comment here to confirm with Sarah whether she's okay with that or whether we should push back to have only one reconciliation. I think we'll leave that with Sarah. We crossed out the sentence on the next page 3 that said failure to do so should constitute a breach of this agreement. Failure to do anything in the documents breach, I guess. Put that out. This is unnecessary. And the wording of the first section of the level of service section was reworded. And for events, we're gonna budget those. And if anything beyond what's budgeted takes place, then the municipality that hosts the event needs to pay for the overtime. We also been verbally trying to make it clear, at least that events need to be planned well in advance so that we're not having to expected to react on short notice for police service requirements associated with events. At the top of page 4, we changed the wording around the level of service. We took out the sentence, no change in the agreed upon level of service shall occur within the contract term absent mutual approval. But added in the event the voters failed, oh yeah, this one is in case the event the voters fail to approve a proposed budget that necessitates a reduction in the police services, there will be a concomitant reduction in the level of service. This addresses the issue that if a town budget fails, it's probably unlikely that we would have a new approved budget before the city would vote on their budget in April. But we did not want to have the commitment that we would be required to match the level of service committed in a budget that was not approved. So this allows us to adjust, if we choose to adjust the police budget as a means to get a budget to pass, we would not be required to maintain the level of service that we had previously proposed. We could reduce those in conjunction with the budget. also clearly stated that if the city wants a service that benefits one of the city, they'll have to pay for the full amount for that. And one thing that maybe, I'm not sure if it's clear, and he'll have to look and see if the words are here about that they can only do that in conjunction with a new budget year. Or maybe, I don't know. I guess we have to have that discussion. We need to link it to a budget year. Just paying them off. I don't know how that would work.
If it doesn't impact our budget, that's. Does it matter?
If we have to spend more in order to get their service, even though they're going to pay us back, it's a change to the budget. I don't know. We'd have to ask.
You'd have to think about
it. Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
timing if they
Yeah.
did it, if anybody did it a month into the budget year, maybe if they were looking at doing it at some other point, and is it a permanent service condition? Is it so? I think the two parties would look to have a conversation about when it's effective, if it's ever going to be effective.
Maybe there's something we can discuss further later. For the advisory board, this has gone back and forth. We've gone back to the language saying reasonable representation. If we establish an advisory board, we will afford reasonable representation to the city rather than stating making a specific commitment to what that really means upfront. Because there may not be an included group, may not be an advisory board. We don't know what it's going to look like yet. If it happens. In the termination section, this was something that Brad had asked for, to have a not less than 3 years, nor more than 4. So if there's a time window where it's acceptable to, where you're allowed to terminate the agreement. Again, I'm not sure that it came from that was one of their I think that's it for the police agreement. Any other comments? It's the only thing was the one, and the language may already be in there about when a change of service can take place.
I thought it was, and maybe it's my imagination, it's when we meet jointly. I thought that was the only time they were going to be able to change the service.
Yeah, it might already be in there. It just was.
This is at the
occurred
beginning
to me
of
as
that
I was reading it that might.
statement.
There's so many words on the page that hard to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Appraiser and assessor services. The only change in there is there was a request to make it clear that what they're actually getting is for their money as assessor services. I'll look at my notes to see if I've.
There's a note on that one in exchange for assessor services. Mine has a note.
Yeah, the question, right. That is a question. Is should there be an appeal? So the question I had on this one is, so this says that the city will contribute towards the office of the assessor based on percentage of parcels until such time as the upcoming reappraisal is completed. My question on this is, if the reappraisal completes mid-fiscal year, how do we budget for that? And do we know, do we understand a reappraisal process well enough to know when it's going to end? because we could transition from them paying a fixed percentage of the assessor's office for an unknown period of time, and then suddenly going to an hourly rate.
I don't know where this comment came from, but I would say that you are gonna budget your assessor's office for the entire year. And
Right.
for the entire fiscal year. You don't know when the assessing process is gonna be done. And that doesn't mean that the assessor's work for the year is done. The
Yeah.
assessor does many other things than first of all, they don't even really do a reappraisal. We hire someone to do the reappraisal and they manage that project.
And then if it's appeal, then they go out and look at
Right.
the appraisal.
But even then, they're still working on grand lists. They're still working on permits. They're still working on questions and listers. I don't know if I would think that's appropriate. But it may need more information. I can't say you should absolutely be against it. It's just a comment that, or a change that came from somewhere, but is not known what they mean by it.
So, I think this question came from me, and what I mean by it is that, yes, I know we will budget an entire year's cost for running our assessor's office, but the revenue would change dramatically if you went from a percentage of parcels to an hourly
Correct.
basis only for appeals. And so if we've got an approved budget that assumes a certain amount of revenue and it changes dramatically mid-year, is that a problem for us?
The answer would be, it would be a problem. How big of a problem is the current budget's about $180,000 a year, plus other expenses, total about 180. It depends. Does it happen in the first quarter, in the middle way?
Right.
How many hours? Currently, I didn't memorize the numbers, but the parcels are, I think the town has about 10% more parcels currently than the village. The town will likely add parcels over a period of time, not necessarily over the next 3 years, so much more that it's going to create any things. But the workload isn't necessarily just parcels, it's what's going on the parcels. Is there a subdivision? Is there a dispute? Is there a change of title or sale, et cetera, et cetera? Did they do any work that they either did get a permit for and we're inspecting, or we are now being found out that they've done work and we didn't have a permit and we're inspecting? Is it going to change dramatically? Hard to tell, and I don't want to put a gum in the works. I just think that I think they would need to give notice, at least so that we have time to adjust if they wanted to move on. I don't understand right now why you would change in the middle of a fiscal year.
Because the way this is worded, it said that the percentage payment ends when the reappraisal is completed, and we have no idea what day that reappraisal is going to complete. And so my question is, should we say that they have to pay for the entire fiscal year, that they continue paying until the end of the fiscal year that the reappraisal completes? And in that situation, if any appeals occur, then they shouldn't pay on an hourly basis because they're already paying on a per parcel basis. Right. So I would think that the hourly basis doesn't kick in until the fiscal year following the end of the reappraisal. That's the way
Yeah. I think that makes sense, but more importantly, the town attorney had his hand up a little while ago, who might be able to provide some
Oh,
better language.
here I am not looking at that anymore. Sorry.
Bill.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I included some language later today or about them continuing to pay for assessor services until the end of the fiscal year in which the reappraisal is completed.
Okay. All right.
So I think we can move on.
All right. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Yep. 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 The dynamic documents here. All right. And I think that was the only question that I see on that one. Anybody have anything? Go ahead, Tracy.
So those are the three that we've already reviewed before. And the delinquent tax agreement, that's the first new one that we
Yep.
haven't discussed, correct? I'd like to request that we just pause quickly to take any public comment that there may be on those three.
Oh, sure. Sounds like a good idea. Is there any public comment on the three documents we've just reviewed? Irene, going up to the microphone.
Hi, Irene Renner. This may be out of order, but if I had tried to say it during public to be heard, I probably would have been told to wait until we talked about the appraisal. So I just wanted to mention that the word on the street is that if you want to hire a consulting firm to do a reappraisal, they're booking about 4 or 5 years out right now. So your staff, somebody might want to start getting on the ball about arranging for what we anticipate to be a reappraisal that will be needed in the foreseeable future. Thank you.
I think there was an RFP prepared already for that, right?
Yes, I believe I saw a draft.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Irene. Any other public comment? Okay, don't see any, so let's move on to delinquent tax. Are you raising your hand?
Oh, no, sorry.
Sorry,
Waving
waving
goodbye.
goodbye. Okay.
Yeah, we had a member of the public leave.
Yep, yep. Sorry. I saw a hand out of the corner of my eye. All right, delinquent tax agreement. This one is currently a clean document because we haven't made any changes to it yet. So, and actually, we're probably going to talk about these with Bill in executive session. Should we want to talk about them here or have our first discussion about them? I guess, I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I don't have a problem discussing them in public. If, you know,
Yep. Okay.
Bill's willing.
Yeah, I
don't see anything that.
was a little squeamish about just
Chair?
stepping in the closet.
Before you get into the text, I don't know if you're comfortable, but this is really in the weeds stuff. So you may want to explain to anybody who's listening.
Okay.
Does that
Yep.
make sense to you?
Sure. Yeah.
Because if you just hear this, you'd feel like it dropped right out of the sky.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the delinquent tax agreement, thank you. Delinquent tax agreement, and what delinquent taxes are taxes that have not been paid yet, that were due in the past, and for any number of reasons, an individual property owner may have not been able to pay their tax bill. And so the town, it's either, regardless of whether it's town tax, village tax, or school tax, the town holds all of the delinquent taxes. We pay the school district, and in fact, we're required by statute to pay the school district their full amount that they're due. We also do the same for the village. And so the town holds all of the delinquent taxes, which means anybody that owes delinquent taxes in the entirety of the town owes them to the town. We do have it's on the order of $500,000 or so right now. The last report I saw was 500 and some thousand dollars that are owed to the town in delinquent taxes. About half of that, the last time again, the last report we got from Sarah, there was about 270,000 of that was village properties. And so the question here is those taxes are owed to the town, again, regardless of whether they were school taxes, village taxes, or town taxes. They're seen as actually as an asset, ironically, because the town will eventually collect those funds. Some of them they generally have interest attached to them, so there is some other value there. In fact, we don't encourage. We try to work as best we can to help people pay their taxes. We're not in the delinquent tax business to make money. Just to make that clear. We do have a tax sale policy where if certain conditions are met, we will go to, we first try to work with the property owners that are the most egregious violators, I guess is I don't know if egregious is the right word, the most severe or most outstanding. Thank you. And try to work with them to get them onto a payment plan. As soon as once they're on a payment plan, then and if they satisfy the payment plan terms, then we don't go to a tax sale. But if issues persist, then we may go to a tax sale. And the question here is whether that one of the questions that was raised associated with delinquent taxes that are owed is if the town and the village separate, there are properties that will be in the city that still owe taxes to the town. And the question is, okay, then who collects those delinquent taxes, and can we do a tax sale on a property in another municipality? It's my understanding that there's precedence for that, I guess, between St. Albans Town and St. Albans City with regard to their water service, but that's a fee for service situation, which is different, I think, than a property tax situation. So, so that's what this is about. Is a question of who's gonna collect the delinquent taxes, and actually this goes into more detail about actually who even collects taxes. Did I explain that all right? Okay. All right. So, so the request from the village is that the town continue to hold the delinquent taxes for all properties in the future city, and then that it gives us the right to go, or they state that we have the right to go and do tax sales on those as appropriate for our policy. I guess there's still an open question. I guess this may be a question that ends up getting resolved by the legislature, because this is one thing that when we stand before the legislature, assuming that the vote passes, that this is a question that I will raise with the legislature as to whether we can continue to hold those delinquent taxes, or whether they need to somehow buy them out. So that's the view of how that will get resolved. But in the meantime, we've got this agreement we're trying to put together. The one thing that this asks for that I'm concerned about is it says that the city, the vision of the trustees is that the city will be formed on a certain date, but for the subsequent fiscal year, because it would be on July 1st, so it would be the first day of a new fiscal year. They're saying that their residents would still owe taxes to the town, and that they would collect the town taxes and then remit them to us. But it doesn't. There's a couple of things I'm concerned about there. One is I think the town should collect its own taxes, and there's nothing in here. There's no terms in here defining how those funds would be transferred to the town. So I think there's some things missing in here. And Bill, I did pass those comments on to you, and I don't know if other wording has been proposed or not, but
Yeah, we have a red line that we can review in executive session.
Okay. all right, all right. That was the crux of my concern there. So I'm just trying to see if I had any other. On that one, I think that was mine. That was it for me. Anybody else have any concerns with the delinquent tax agreement? Okay, all right. So I guess we'll. Sounds like Bill's got some other proposed language that we can look at later. Other than that, right.
Thank you for doing the explanation.
Yeah. If I wasn't too wordy. um, next is the shared financial services agreement. Anybody have any comments on that one? Go ahead, Tracy.
I have a few. Just like the others, it doesn't state anything around indirect costs. And also, I would like to see a review timeline similar to what's in the police agreement. Just if per capita isn't working, if something else comes up, just allows us to sit down, or actually would make us sit down and actually talk and make sure that the agreement is still functioning as intended.
Okay. Anybody else? I had posed a bunch of questions about how mechanically it all works with regard to who issues W-2s and whose benefits plan do they get, and that none of that's at all clear. This document also has the two true-ups similar to what the police agreement has. So again, that's a question for finance department, how they want to handle that. Okay. Oh, the agreement actually says grand list in there. I think that needs to be changed to, I think the intent was to do it per capita.
Yep. Second to last paragraph on page 2, second line should have been paid on a per capita basis. So it may behoove us to go through and just make sure the language is consistent throughout.
Yep.
Oh, it's here too.
Oh, it says it per capita in some places, and it says,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it just needs
It says
to be
grand
gone
list
through
down
it.
and then it says per capita.
All right,
and
all
other.
right, all right,
Good job.
all right, all right. All right, I guess we'll have more discussion on that. Any other?
What, under termination, it says it must be delivered to the other party by September 1st of a given year to become effective in June. Why would, but up here it says it's a 1 year. September to June is not a year. Somewhere it said.
It says the initial term of the agreement shall be 4 years.
Okay. And shall automatically renew for an additional 1 year term. But if you're gonna, in the event you're gonna cancel it, you should also have a 1 year. You know what I'm saying? If
I read it as that it would be in place for that fiscal year. If they want to, if either party wants to end it, following year, it has to be by September 1st. So it's in place for that fiscal year.
okay.
Right, so you do all your budget planning based on knowing that the agreement will be terminated.
Okay. I didn't read it that way, but if that's the way that's
Right, thanks, Tom. Any other comments on that one. All right, and then the IT one doesn't say anything about money. It just, and it also asks for access to town equipment, and we're not gonna give anybody access to our servers. So I think this needs to work.
My comment was basically we should defer to the IT director. Access to servers, we need to make sure we're adhering to HIPAA, IRS standards, Social Security. There could be CGIS information.
I
We need
think
to ensure that that's
Bill has I think Bill has new language. I saw an email while we were in here. I think he's addressing that. I think one of the things you'd want to do is make sure you're listing your concerns. Again, I think there's a misperception. It's not that we don't want to give people access, a certified contractor access to what we're doing. One, we want to know what they're proposing to do, when they're proposing to do it, and that we're involved in it for those same reasons. There are very sensitive, information, etc., that we hold that if it is the villages, it very well could be, it is handled in a certain way. And if there any dispute arises from that handling, that we understand who we're dealing with and who took it and when it happened, etc. Because if you could imagine a data breach, for whatever reason, we're still the holder of that record until such time as we are not, and it's certified that it's been transferred. Those are just some of the icky details of what it is, and so we will give access to what it needs, but it just needs to be in a controlled environment.
well, and especially
And yes,
with,
by the IT director,
yeah,
who is responsible for that data.
yeah. Well, not only from a data perspective, but just knowing the configuration of different networks and servers. You don't want to be going poking around in someone else's
No.
setup without knowing exactly what you're doing. So
And I think a lot of this would be like, well, the devil's in the details of what the plan is.
Yeah, and I don't know if we need to include trying to optimize fiber contract for connectivity, or whether
Yeah.
keep ones in place beyond certain dates in order to avoid having to renegotiate them. I don't know if that needs to be there, if that's.
I think we
too
just
much.
need to understand, both sides need to understand what contracts are in place, what they serve, and what the penalties are for breaking any of those contracts.
So those are the agreements we have at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I guess I will go back to ask for any public comment on any of those. See no hands in the room. Any hands online? No, I don't see any hands online either, so, all right. We will return to this topic later as we go into executive session. One of 3 that we'll have this evening. All right, okay, so let's move on to business item 5H, discussion about select board candidate interviews. Greg, did you want to talk here? You want me to go through it?
Yeah, I can kick it off and turn it over to you. There's the 4 candidates for the opening on the select board are all confirmed to interview tomorrow. Kenneth Willits, Tim LeBombard, Susan Cook, and Kendall Chamberlain. They have all been sent a couple of questions that they've responded to in writing. That's in your packet for tomorrow. The same memo that you see before each night is also in your packet tomorrow. It includes written questions, and it includes several interview questions that you can ask tomorrow. They're a combination of questions that the select board reviewed a few weeks ago, recycled from the last time there was an opening about a year and a half ago. It also includes some questions suggested from Essex Best, which is the formerly the Essex Safety, Policing, and Racial Justice Task Force, to bring into the equity and inclusion perspectives into this. So just a chance tonight to take a look, share any thoughts, make any last minute adjustments. But otherwise, that's what you're looking at, and just wanted to make sure it was on the agenda tonight in case there's anything you wanted to do differently before getting into tomorrow's meeting.
Okay, thanks, Greg. So there are, we've got 7 questions. Well, first question is just opening statement, and the last is closing statements, and opportunity for candidates to ask questions. So we essentially have 5, sorry. 5 questions between that we'd like to, the intent was to ask each of the candidates the same question so that there's a consistency in what they're asked. Anybody have any concerns with any of these questions, or some of them have been, go ahead, you got a comment, Tracy?
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant to ask about a specific issue. Thinking about number 5, how should we proceed when discussing separation? To me, it's ultimately more important to know how someone, the process and methodology someone takes to come to a decision, any decision, not just this one. So I would like to see more of a sort of, what's important to you? What do you take into consideration when making a decision? As opposed to something so pointed to right now, although given we're only appointing through March. Hopefully, separation will not be the only thing we're doing
Right.
through March. But I think applicability to, approach to different issues or problems is more important than how someone feels about one particular issue.
Yeah, so this was modified from a question that you both were asked the last time we went through this, where it said merger instead of separation. Right? Pat.
No, I kind of feel like if this was, I realize that we were appointing, but I feel like if this was something where people were running, it would be impossible for them to avoid answering that question. And it's certainly by far the majority of what we're dealing with in our time right now. If I'm not saying, I think that you could answer this in a lot of different ways, but I would be concerned if someone came to us and said, I hate people in the TOB, and I am going to ensure that they hurt as much as possible, as often as possible. I mean, I don't expect us to get that, but answering the question about something that of this scope and scale, the work that we're dealing with, I do think that it's a fair question.
Point taken.
All right. I think yeah.
What do you think about that one?
Any other questions? Concerns about? So I'm wondering on that one, Tracy, whether you'd want to take that question, be the one to ask that question, and I don't know if you want to. Well, I guess I don't know. Based on what Pat said, I don't know if you want to water it down or not. Right.
Well, hopefully the
maybe not
response that we get will give us some insight into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're watching tonight, they're getting clues as to what we're looking for.
Well, what if you worded it? How do you feel the select board is handling the current separation negotiations with the village?
We don't want it to be a
You don't want
response
it to be,
on
okay.
our performance, yeah.
yeah, I mean, not that
Okay.
I shy away from
No,
people
I'm
Right,
giving
right,
us
people should
feedback on
certainly tell us how
performance,
we're
but-
doing, yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine with.
All right, all right. All right, then I guess the next question is, does anybody have a favorite question they want to ask?
I like number 6.
You want number 6? All right, so we'll put Don on number 6. I'm gonna take the first and last ones, but I can take another one as well.
Wait a minute. Those are statements, Andy. You don't have
Yeah, no, that's right. I'm just the mouthpiece for those, but with regard to, I guess, let others have their preference first.
Okay.
Just assign whatever you want to me. I'm good.
You have a favorite?
I like 3.
You like 3? All right, so I got that number 3.
No, I don't mind
Oh,
2 either.
yeah,
That's
I
all
was just
right.
gonna
Go
say,
ahead. You do 2.
I'll take 2.
2 would be good for you. That'd be good for you.
All right, Tracy,
Are you going to do 5 also?
Sure.
Well, I
Mm.
thought that's what he asked you. So I don't
and
know.
That's fine.
then I'll do number 4.
Hold on.
All right, so we'll ask those questions. And right, see what answers we get, and then have a discussion later about that. All right.
I'm really sorry. One question that we were asked back a year and a half ago, that I thought I saw in here, but obviously I didn't, was, do you intend to run for the office in March? And as a follow-up, if not, why?
Yeah, that was a question that we had asked last time, and it was on our earlier list, but I think it got taken off in favor of some of these
Equity. one.
equity ones.
I think
I'm
we,
happy to add it back in. There's the smaller candidate pool, so.
With only 4
just a little bit
candidates, we
more
could
time.
ask more
what
questions.
did we have 10 last time, 9 or 10 last time?
I would be happy to ask that one as well. Just to save on discussion time.
You're gonna ask 3 of them?
Well,
If,
wait a minute,
if
now,
the board
shit.
is okay with that.
Okay.
No, I only have 1. I want more. No, it's fine.
Oh, well, you can go for it.
So are we in agreement that we want to add that one question in?
Yeah, fine. We've got more time. And
Yeah, there's only
Sounds like
4
we do with
candidates.
only 4
I think we had 10 candidates last time, right?
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll.
Do any audience?
Right. Well, we're not done on the topic,
no.
but I think, yeah, I guess before we take any action. Yes, Irene, go ahead. Come on up. Sorry, I didn't look up.
Okay. Thank you, Irene Renner again. There is a chance that separation won't pass on November 2nd. So this person would be serving for exactly 1 meeting, perhaps, before separation's no longer on the table. I would urge you to, if you must ask for separation, please do, but I would not if I were in your seat still. I think another question to consider is, what other issues do you find important? We've spent a lot of time on merger and separation, as each of those candidates probably is aware. What other issues do you think the town should be working on right alongside separation, instead of separation, in addition to separation? Because there's been a whole lot of stuff that has not been talked about that is part of, I believe, the select board's duty and part of what residents are begging the town government to pay attention to right now. So I think you can learn a whole lot about a candidate by asking, what else do you look forward to working on as a select board member?
The first written question addresses that.
Okay.
The written, and then those written responses, the written responses?
They're in your packet.
They are in the packet, they're already in the.
Are they? Okay, super.
Yep.
That I did not look at, but
In the packet for tomorrow night, right,
Yep.
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks a
Yep,
lot.
yep,
Appreciate that.
Yep, thank you. Any other public comments? All right, I don't see any. So, yeah, if we could add that additional question in, and we need to republish the memo, or at least get us Would it help me to have a clean copy of it tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll print out, 4 sheets for each of you, for each candidate, in case you want to take notes or anything, and I'll add that
Yep.
question in.
Okay, great. My other question is, do we want to inform all the candidates we've added a question since they've already seen the question?
I was thinking I would make them aware.
Yeah. Yeah.
In case some of them watching tonight, if not, put everybody on equal
Yeah.
footing.
Yep, that's good. Yeah. Please, okay, all right, great. Right, anything else on that topic? All right, so, then we will move on. Personnel discussion, we'll go into executive session about that later, and then, Tracy, you wanted to update, make a comment on the minutes?
Oh, yeah. It was actually the correction that was noted, line 210 to 213. I had asked about the review. Pat asked the last question about emergencies and the change, just changed the whole thing to Pat. Not that I just wanted to make sure that the record reflected what was said and by whom. So the second sentence instead of he like leave my name there, and the second part instead of he also asked, it should just be.
Okay, so this was a change to the September 13th minutes that you had requested last week was misunderstood.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're right, to be clear on line 210, it should say Ms. Delphia. That's correct, so it should go back to Ms. Delphia. And then line 212, where it says he, it should say Mr. Murray.
Mr. Martin, yes.
Right, also should probably come out. So that it's good.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it? Okay,
That was it.
all right. A correction to a correction. There we go. We can do that. All right, I guess I need a motion to approve the amended minutes.
I make the motion that we approve the minutes as amended.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-0. Moving on to consent agenda, which is check warrants.
I make the motion we accept the consent agenda.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. Reading file, any board member comments?
I can't remember what's in the reading file, but I do have a comment I'd like to make.
Yeah.
I want to thank Tammy and Ann and everybody else that worked on Out and About Essex this weekend. It was awesome. And I truly want to thank the poor musicians that played in the pouring rain.
Oh, yeah.
Because each and every one of them did an outstanding job. So thank you all.
Yes, I second that.
Thank you for the kind words. It's a lot of work, but a lot of happy people and a great event.
It was.
One to continue. I sent you my thanks for the work on the leak detection survey. It's interesting that the satellite didn't work and the old tried and true acoustic method was seems to be the way to go. And so yeah, every leak you fix saves us money, so it's a good thing. Thanks for that. Anything else? All right, if not, we'll start our executive session marathon. We need one for appointments.
I have the next one. I don't have the appointment one. I've got the ones for the.
I've got you got it?
I move that the select board enter into an executive session to discuss the proposed public official appointments in accordance with 1 VSA section 313A3 and to include the unified manager and the deputy manager.
And are we gonna have the training? Not for this one, not for this one. Or you can say. You can
He'll be there, you might as well have.
Yeah, you can say his name.
And the town attorney.
Yeah. Right, so you don't have to call him in later, right? Okay, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Your hand up?
Yeah, whenever you're done.
Oh.
I jumped the gun.
All right, so then, let's see, the next one is, about,
MOUs.
the MOUs.
I move that the select board make the specific finding that a general public knowledge of contracts and confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body would place the town at a substantial disadvantage. And I move that the select board enter
We
in.
gotta do this one at a time.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it's my page split. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Now you can do the next one.
I move the select board enter into executive session to discuss contracts and confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body pursuant of 1 VSA 313 A1A and F to include the town attorney, the unified manager, and the deputy manager.
Thank you, Don. Have a second? Pat got that one. Thank you, Pat. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 4-0. Now we need a personnel discussion.
I move that the select board enter into executive session to discuss the employment of a public employee in accordance with 1 VSA section 313A3 to include the town attorney, the unified manager, and deputy manager.
I second it. All right, Tracy.
All right, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Tracy. Any further discussion? I guess this is the point where I typically bring up the question of whether or not we're going to return to open session afterwards. I think
You're appointing people.
we had
to the
already told
committee.
the candidates that we would inform them if they were. So if we come to consensus, we may come back to do those appointments. What we've done in the past is open the door upstairs and do that upstairs rather than coming back to this room. You okay with that? Then the candidates will find out tomorrow, phone call. So if we have to make any motions, we'll make them in open session, but in the room upstairs with the door open. All right, so Scott, when we leave here, we're not going to come back to this room. Okay, any other discussion?
Just one quick comment, please.
Yep.
I just want to thank the candidates who stepped up for the Conservation and Trails Committee. Six people coming forward is awesome. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's only 4 spots, but just a great response from the community to step up and be part of that. And for the candidates who unfortunately may not get appointed, if anything else interests you for other boards, openings, board committees, please reach out. And thanks again for stepping up to be part of the community.
Thanks, Greg. All right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, so we'll re-adjourn up.